Hey, this is the Carpet Guy. I'm going to show you the proper way to use these on spots that you get on your carpet, that these are the best trick for. I got two pieces here to deal with. You can see right here on the bottom of this, when I first saw this, I actually thought it was something melted onto the carpet. And this one's going to give me a really good example to be able to show for you, because I can pick it up and move it around, so just on a throw rug. And then we have this interesting little monster. This is slime. That gooey stuff that used to come in the green trash can. So I'm going to show you how to deal with that one. But first, this one's perfect. Smiley's going to go ahead and get in here really close. You can kind of see, it literally, if I had to guess, I'd say this is some kind of glue. Somebody got some on there and then just kind of, tried to wipe it out. And again, I don't know if I've ever told you that before, how many of these videos you've watched, but that is a technical term. So they kind of and smeared that all over the place. But you can kind of see, if you look at that real close there on the edges, see how all that goopy stuff is literally just sitting all up on the tips of the fibers. So how are we going to deal with that? Well, very simply. We're going to start by working our scissors down through just like this, and we're going to cut this up real similar, just like you'd cut like a pan of brownies. Obviously you couldn't, it's pretty difficult to get the whole pan out whole. And again, this one makes it easy because I don't have to keep moving myself. And I'll cut that probably into thirds. It's pretty thick right there. As you can see, I'm just making this into smaller pieces. And again, this is a little bit easier in the fact that I'm dealing with a rug that I can just pick up and turn around. It takes a little bit of contorting, and I'll lay this down flat just to show you how I would have to do it if I was doing it flat. Actually, there's a great example. Now that I have these cut into smaller pieces,
they're just pulling right on.
Yeah, some of them are just coming right out. They're not even grabbing. They're just barely sitting on the surface. Now, this one's kind of in a little bit sideways. But again, I can just very carefully just work those individual fibers. There, I got that one. And I should, once we get done with this, be able to trim this completely out. And you can see on that one where I was trying to work the scissors and they wouldn't squeeze, because I was catching a little bit of the crud. So you just kind of work it so it's kind of flat. Catching it again, so that means it's kind of turning on me a little bit. Notice, like on that one, I backed off on that one because I was getting ready to snip more than I wanted to. So you just have to, honestly, with this particular type of a repair, it's more of a matter, and you can see like this piece right here, it's literally holding on by one fiber. There's just one little piece of fiber on there. I mean, I didn't even hardly have to touch hardly any carpet to get that off of there. Now you would say, if you have Berber carpet, well, that won't work on my carpet because I have a Berber. Now something big and thick like this, you're probably right. However, fingernail polish, I've done some different types of glues on Berbers. I just used I didn't use these big old honking scissors. I just used a real small pair, like a pair of cuticle scissors or real sharp scissors I got at a beauty supply store. But you can see I've now taken out half of that, and I got just a little bit of stuff down inside that one, but I don't want to get too aggressive with it. So there you can see half of that's removed, and as you can see, I might have made a little bit of a divot in that, but for most people, and again, this is just a throw rug that was sitting by a door. But these little throw rugs that are sitting beside doors for a lot of people are really valuable because they match everything else in the house. And if all of a sudden you don't have one, you got to put something else in there. And you can see, like with these, now that I've got it cut into pieces, I can actually just pull that aside. And I want to be gentle with it because you don't want to pull too hard. Carpet is not secure. Carpet is not designed to have any kind of pressure put on it as far as pulling it, like when you're pulling on the individual fibers, like I was just doing. So you gotta be a little careful there. But again, you can see I've just about got this one completely out, and I'm just gonna keep repeating that. That's pretty thick right there. Keep just munching that into smaller little pieces. It's like I'm cutting brownies out of a pan.
Actually, I think they do that when they're making peanut brittle.
That's actually what this feels like.
Yeah.
This actually feels like, I mean, it's got to, obviously it's not peanut brittle, or it would have, our normal cleaning process would have dissolved it. But yeah, this is, yeah, you're right. You do cut peanut brittle with a pair of scissors.
Yep.
And that's kind of what this one's like. So I'm gonna finish that one here in a little bit. So here, if you look at this one, this is that same type of, you know, you can see it actually as I start working this with the scissors. This is one of my other favorite techniques. This one's going to be a little harder to cut because I am having a little bit of a tough time getting underneath it. But I'll just be able to just break this thing up. Now this one's kind of rubbery, obviously being that slimy stuff. But again, if you look at that, and get Smiley to pull down in there, let me cut this side just a little bit so we can get it on the camera angle side. If you look at that from the side, as I lift those up, you can see that stuff is literally sitting right on the surface of the fibers. It has not gone anywhere down into the carpet whatsoever. It is literally sitting right on the surface. Oftentimes, let me think of some stains that are, well, I was going to say, oftentimes the best way to handle something crazy like something like this, because this stuff's a pain in the butt when it's wet. I've had customers call me on the phone because it's kind of got some, you need some solvent to actually get this out, and it's tough to get extracted because it's so gooey and slimy. It just turns to, I mean, that's the name of the product, it's slime. So that's pretty much what it is. So it can be quite the challenge to try to get this out, even with a shop vac, because it just turns to this funky, weird goo. This is one of those stains, or some of that stuff, and this is not technically a stain. You'll have to get the book to find the definition of a stain. But this is one of those particular items that it's actually better to let it dry, which goes totally against conventional wisdom. Oh my gosh, if I let it dry, it might get set. Well, here's one of my favorite statements. You'll find this all over the book. Doing the wrong thing quickly will not help anything. So if you do the wrong thing, and you do it real fast, you've still done the wrong thing. And you can see I got probably about a quarter of that one out of there. But honestly, scissors are, in my opinion, probably the most underutilized and the most valuable item that a homeowner can have for using on their carpet, especially if you're getting all kinds of funky stuff like this. Works real nice on Play-Doh. Another thing it works real good on, not necessarily cutting like this, but one other item that I'm thinking of that works really good to let it dry before you try to attack it is cat vomit. Cat vomit has quite a bit, you know, it's always slimy and got lots of fur and all kinds of stuff in it, and if you just let it dry, it'll vacuum right out of the carpet with a crevice tool, or, you know, using the, I always call it the snorkel end of your vacuum cleaner, because once it dries, it just turns into like a dusty, almost like a dusty, hazy kind of a consistency that'll literally just vacuum right, you know, your vacuum will just be able to pick it right up. And I often run into that where we'll move a piece of furniture and we'll find some, and 9 times out of 10 you can just vacuum it real aggressively and it'll come right out. But if you try to deal with it when it's wet, it can be quite the challenge. But you can see I'm just continually working this, like I said, like my brownies, and there's a couple of chunks here that are deeper down in, and you can see I just keep working those around. Actually, that one just pulled out. I didn't even cut that one. But as you can see in the time that you've been watching this, patience is a virtue. And I guess I've been blessed with, I've had many women tell me that I'm the most patient man that they've ever dealt with ever before, to sit here for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes just carefully snipping and snipping. My dentist tells me I should have been a dentist because I'm so detail oriented. But again, this is something very very simple that any homeowner could do. Any homeowner, you have to have a little bit of skill. If you have a whole lot of thumbs, you might want to be careful and find somebody that can cut a little better than you. But I'm certainly not a scissor expert by any stretch of the imagination. Well, that's probably not really accurate, is it, Smiley? sitting here being a scissor expert, telling people I'm not a scissor expert.
Well, you just, you mentioned detail. There's a lot of professions that call for detail.
Oh, this is definitely one.
Dentistry and cutting carpet fibers is not the only two.
Yeah, you're right. Now here I've got an area where there's a bunch of stuff. This one's buried all the way down in. There's a big glob of it down inside here. So we'll have to see if we've got some magic juice for that. But again, even if this is as far as I can take it and I can't get the rest of that out, if I just left it, I'll just trim, if I just finish trimming these last few pieces, obviously that's far more acceptable for most people. Yeah, that's almost to the point to where, I mean, there's a big clump right here. The fingernails are an absolutely wonderful tool, just for working that stuff through. And again, if I had a cup or something, I would actually just go get some water and just show you that this stuff will actually just come out with water. It's dissolving very easily. And I could have, if I wanted to, used my vacuum or used the technique that I've showed you in so many of the other videos with the shop vac, just put a bunch of water on this and dissolved it. But I'm dealing with it as I found it, which is probably how you would find it, because if your kids got slime all over your carpet in your house, they would probably hide it as best they could, and you wouldn't find it for some period of time later. That one's a real thick globber. Hey, pictures! I had told Smiley to go ahead and stop this. I was thinking he didn't want to watch that long, but then I realized I'm using more Carpet Guy magic here, and I wanted to make sure you got to see it. See how I'm just working that? And like I said, I'm using a little bit of a detergent here. It is one that is, I don't want to go too much into that, but similar to the stuff that you can get here from the Carpet Guy. I'm not naming specific names because we change them periodically as we find stuff that works better, but you can see before I couldn't even get through this, and you can see it's still pretty. Now you can actually see that glob. That actually, just with some moisture on it, that thing's actually, I'm actually able to pull that stuff up and out of the fibers. Again, I'm scraping it kind of with my fingernails and using the tips of the scissors. You can see I'm just getting big piles of it in my hand. And there's actually another way you can use the scissors. Sometimes I forget I do this. You can actually just close the scissors down and kind of get some fiber in between them and just gently lift. And that's pulling pretty aggressively on the fibers. But sometimes that'll just help you just scrape the stuff. Literally you're using the edges of the scissors to kind of scrape the stuff out. Now again, I'm being real careful to make sure I don't pull. I can pull a couple of fibers here and there out of this carpet. It's thick enough that I'm not going to cause any kind of a hole. But I want to be careful with that. But always use your least aggressive detergent first. And it also helps to read the labels. Oftentimes they have a caution that comes on the thing. Of course, now we've got this magic thing called the World Wide Web, where you can go just learn just about anything. And unfortunately, many of the things that I find on the internet are not really all that appropriate, or don't work worth a crap. How about we'll just go ahead and say it straight. Unless you're here and you have my book. Now you can see that's leaving a little bit of a detergent residue. And I actually want that. This particular product that I'm using will dry and leave, it does what's called encapsulation. It'll just, as that dries, it'll just break up any soil left on the surface. But as you can see, there's actually a little bit of that stuff still deep down in the bases. And I'm actually just going to leave it there because it's far enough down in that from the surface you can't see it. And I'm sure that Smiley, my magic video guy, has got that all pretty much to the point to where you can't see it. So there you go. Proper method for using these. Many, many, many things in your house. Gum, wax,